How would you describe your music to someone who has never heard it before?
It's electronic, synth, pop, melodic. I guess that's it.
Listen to say on a day-to-day basis.
It's also dark.
Very dark.
So dark, melodic, synth, electronic, pop. This is the first and only acoustic guitar I've owned and used. It's in all of my YouTube recordings. So I've had this since I was 15 years old. This is what started it off. This is the story. It's gonna make me sound very mean-spirited, but just remember this was when I was 15. And you know, when you're, young, angsty, right? Anti-everything. It was in high school, and back then, so this would have been like 1993. Grunge was big. Okay, so we had some like school bands playing in the auditorium, and they were like, oh, these guys just playing grunge music, like crappy grunge music. So I was watching it and was like, I can do better than them. So that's what inspired me to start making my own music. Yeah, it's like I'm gonna show them all, right? So then that day, after school, I went home. I called my dad, and I got my half-sister, and I was like, hey, can you ask Daddy to get me a guitar, right? So he dropped an acoustic guitar off. At that time, I was like, I wanted to be in a rock band.
Yeah.
And I also, like, for a few years was playing the violin in school. So the first few songs I actually played on the guitar were violin songs. And then I went to the library and signed out a book on how to play the guitar. How many people can't stand the guitar? No? Okay. I prepared this next song that doesn't have any guitar. Oh, here's another song with no guitars.
With the music that you play today, do you think that it translates well to a live performance?
So the electronic music. Sure. It's just a bit more difficult, I find, to do electronic music live. It is always like a puzzle whenever I need to like start like a new live set. To kind of start from scratch, like how am I gonna play this song live? So the Eve Prime EP that I just finished making, that came about when I was trying to figure out how to play my songs live. This was for a show in 2012. It was actually me trying to figure out how to play the song live. And I came up with the riff, the keyboard riff for Eve Prime. Then just kind of wrote the song Eve Prime. I played that at the show, and I got a lot of good feedback. So I thought I'd make a new EP featuring Eve Prime. I think it was like this. So you notice how I didn't move my hand around? So I try to not use a lot of brain power when it comes to playing riffs. Okay, so that's that. And I don't know how to play the rest of the song. I've since forgotten. The name of the new EP is Eve Prime. It's my fifth studio release. When I guess, make an album, I have like a whole pool of songs that I would pick from, right? And then it takes me forever to produce them. So on this Eve Prime EP, the third song, Ride, I wrote that when I was 15 years old. The Universe is Full of Nasties. That one I wrote like in the early 2000s. And then the last one, I Know That, I also wrote that when I was a teenager. The lyrical content was like, okay, my mind frame at that time, what was it? Very like angsty, morbid, dark. I was in my teenage vampire phase. Some of those lyrics I find kind of like bad lyrics, like embarrassing.
Yeah.
I wrote them as a teenager. And I'm not a words person or a poet. The way I write lyrics is I'll make vocalizations like to some kind of melody. And then I will find English words that sound like what I'm vocalizing. So a lot of the time, I don't know what the songs are about. But then the cool thing is, throughout the years, I'll find meaning in the lyrics, and it always changes. So I can't really tell people what the meaning of certain songs are because just kind of depending on what kind of life experience I've gone through, it's like, oh no, now this song means this to me. This song I thought that was like crappy and with really bad teenage angst lyrics now have so much more meaning. The most recent songs, so Eve Prime and Phoenix Flame, more like sci-fi fantasy, because I guess nowadays that's what I'm into. So just to explain the concept for the artwork, so Eve Prime, that's the name of the album. To me, Eve Prime is female of the species, and the species is something older than mankind. So I wanted it to be look primitive and alien-like. So I asked Leah to do that. So I sent her the lyrics because I find it's important for the artist to know what the themes are. And then I explained each song to her. And then I said, this is what I liked about your artwork. This is why I asked you to do it.
The final product, when we put it together too, it was really cool because we took like just the basic line drawings. Like that one initial drawing that I had, I actually drew like probably about 6 years ago too. So, which is cool too because it was like a rehash of the new drawing that I did that was supposed to be, it looked too much like Alien, like it looked too much like
Alienation, right?
Yeah, exactly, Alienation, right?
Working with Leah helped me get the album done because I didn't have any deadlines. So it's like, okay, now this is actually inspiring me to get this album done. The music was like nearing completion, but we still didn't have the artwork. So I was like, okay, this Sunday we're getting together. Bring your drawings, and we're gonna scan them off, and then we'll kind of like do some kind of Frankenstein thing.
Which is pretty cool because it's a lot like, you're talking about producing. Took a bunch of hash drawings, 50 different ideas of her idea, because it's really hard to get somebody's idea, especially when it's so abstract and it's so emotionally based. It's really difficult to like take your own style and just put it into somebody else's idea. So it was really cool because we got to you recreated it basically out of the rough work.
So if you could start by telling us about some of the process, what kind of equipment you used on the album. I know you used some programs. If you could just start by what kind of physical equipment you used.
Not much, actually. This guitar. Here. This guitar. I use this for only the one song, Ride, has the guitars. So this is the one that I use. Even when I recorded the guitar for this, it wasn't intended for like this album. It was like for a YouTube video. Then there's acoustic guitar, which is upstairs. This guitar, you have to listen carefully for it. It's in Phoenix Flame. Just like a little blurb. That, again, wasn't intending to use it. I just used the audio from once again, a YouTube video. So I have this drum kit. But I didn't use this on the recording, so sorry to disappoint. All the drums were done in Ableton Live, so on the computer, and it's just me clicking in the notes. And this is what I mean by you draw in the notes. Okay? Here, you put in a little pencil, you draw in the notes. So that's what I do instead of playing the real drums. It takes a long time to do this, especially the hi-hats. See how they can get like pretty like busy? There's a lot of tracks, not just one MIDI clip, a million clips. Okay, so some more equipment I used in recording. So I got this microphone. It's a blue microphone, Bluebird microphone. So I use this to record, I'd say most of the vocals. Vocals for Eve Prime. There's a YouTube video.
Beyond the bedrock, a noise. The sounding is a sound of find no fear is calling to me.
It's kind of funny. It was actually, I was recording into my iPhone, but I didn't use that recording. I ended up using the audio from the video camera. And for Ride was this microphone. This microphone. Again, there's a YouTube video of it.
La 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 la. La 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 la.
The first performance is always like it's raw, right? So I like that. And then when I try to record vocals, like with a more proper microphone and more sterile environment, right? I just can't get that same emotion back. So I always end up using those initial scratch vocals and keeping them. So that's why like the songs they do sound kind of dirty, but that's okay because just the delivery of the vocals is what matters most to me. I hope this is it. Don't say it.
So what have we got here, Suda?
Okay, so we've got, this is, it's a Launchpad, it's called Launchpad. It's for the Ableton Live. It's a MIDI controller. Once it loads, hopefully this will recognize this, and then I'm gonna play something for you. So you might want to pause because this seems to be taking a while. So I set up my old laptop because I wanted to demonstrate how I came up with the riff for Phoenix Flame. I did it on this Launchpad thing here, okay? Okay, so it's just basically playing a pattern, and I came up with this riff. Okay, so this is how it goes. So 1, then you go up 1, then you go up 2, you go up 1, you go up 2, and then you go down octaves.
Sweet.
So faster. So I'm just gonna demonstrate some electrical vocoder magic. And this is what it sounds like, completely dry with no effects.
It gets closer to top, blend into it.
Okay, see how like terrible that sounded?
I liked
When
it.
I hear that, it makes me cringe. So to further hide the crappiness of this, what I did was I added a vocoder. So that's like the robot voice, the synth sound. Okay? So that's the synth sound, and then you combine them. So you combine them to get this.
It gets closer to top, blend into it.
You get the beautiful robot voice.
It gets closer to top, blend into it. Gets closer to top.
Lexi, did you have any advice for anyone in life in general?
Any advice? In general, just be kind to others. Treat them with respect. And be happy. And don't be a morbid teenage vampire.